told me that I was ugly and fat and that I was a bitch.
Who would do such stupidity?
I don't know.
What's his name? What's his name?
I don't know his name.
Oh my!
Is that your real hair?
Does he have?
Who just said that?
What?
Who just said that?
Hey, so I text my little brother son this morning, right? He responded back, SYBAU. So I'm like, what's this new fancy word he talking about? Sabu, Saba, something. I looked this junk up. Man, he telling me shut my bitch ass up. What?
The dragon has 3 heads. One to be a murderer who will unleash death. One to be a monarch whose crown will weigh heavy. And one to be mad whose ideas will change history.
Running the jewelry, chain was magic, never had it in public. Late reaction, 50K to cousins, post a caption. Pray none of my enemies hold me captive. I grieve different.
This little cobweb potion, you'll fall into dark devotion.
Normally when the term Netflix live adaptation comes up, I don't really think twice about it. One Piece was a really lucky strike, so of course Netflix was gonna keep trying again. For fair reasons, folks were not excited for this American live action rendition of Kakegurui, but can I be honest? Like, so honest? I was actually looking forward to it. Kakegurui isn't really one of my most favorite shows, but neither is One Piece, because I haven't watched it yet. But I still loved live action One Piece, and it did get me excited to actually watch One Piece one day. Personally, my biggest beef with a lot of American adaptations of non-American media is that we in the US are too afraid of being cringe to actually do these things justice. And this isn't some new phenomenon that came about in the age of TikTok, though TikTok and the mainstreamness of a lot of the internet amplifies it. But American media has always been like this, always had this repulsion to elements that are honest, fun, and camp. The best example being having the X-Men wear black spandex in the Fox movies instead of yellow, because having them wear their signature yellow is too cartoony, I guess.
Almost forgot.
Oh, am I going to war or a circus?
What'd you expect? Black leather?
And it's a shame because as Americans, we obviously have a desire for more cringy stuff. Just look at how excited people were for movies and shows like the Barbie movie, K-pop Demon Hunters, Superman, and I Love Boosters. Hell, the Umbrella Academy had folks wrapped around its finger with its weirdness up until the final season. Nowadays, everyone's blatantly scared of being cringy and trying so hard to be nonchalant and cool, but like I said, this has always been a thing in the US. It's why Dragon Ball Evolution is like that, because the way the story of Dragon Ball was presented was clearly seen as too corny for an American audience, despite the fact that Americans were fucking watching it. People remember movies like the Hanna-Barbera live action, She's All That, Charlie's Angels, But I'm a Cheerleader, Jawbreaker, The Addams Family, Twilight, Teen Wolf, and the Spice Girls movies fondly because they were fun and not afraid to be a little weird and cringy. Cause I would rather something be bad and enjoyable than be bad and boring. The 2006 Dead or Alive movie is bad, but I love that thing dearly, incest pairing and all.
Nigga, what?
Yeah, I think someone missed the memo that Ayane was Hayate and Kasumi's sister, so the movie ends with Hayate and Ayane making out alongside the other couples in the movie. Ironically, the only one who isn't making out with someone is Tina, which could have been prevented by having Lisa in the movie. DOA is a series that says, okay, but what if we take jiggle physics a little further? And sure, the movie can't completely replicate that in live action, but it can give us Christie's towel fight scene. It may not be a good movie, but goddamn, it's what DOA deserves.
Said with love.
And sure, One Piece live action may not be as weird as the OG series, but it works as a live action One Piece. It's the best live action can offer a show like One Piece. Personally, I'm not asking for a one-to-one retread of an anime or cartoon, but I am asking you to match its energy. Match its freak, as the youth say. And it's in that regard that Bet works as an Americanized Kakegurui. Kakegurui is weird, horny, and weird. So in getting a live action, I was basically like, sure, we need more weird shit, and I need another reason to procrastinate watching season 1 of Bridgerton.
No. No, not you, Sheamus. Ah, poo.
Bet is kind of like if Scott Pilgrim fused with Scream Queens and the 2000s Charlie's Angel movies. The show feels stylized, colorful, and camp. And I mean like actually camp. Not, I'm ashamed of admitting I liked watching Riverdale so I call it camp to pretend the bad writing is on purpose type of camp. Make no mistake, the ridiculousness in Bet is completely on purpose and not trying to cover up anything. It's cringe, but it's authentic. Bet understands that it is an adaptation of a series where the characters are mentally unwell and blatantly horny for gambling, and attend a rich school where slavery is so legal that the student council can make life plans for you. Can you imagine someone trying to make a live action Baki, but it ends up being toned down to a poor man's Rocky? You can't tone that down for general audiences who think anime is too weird. Admittedly, Bet is not horny in an anime way, it's horny in an American way. And I'm not talking Euphoria or The Idol, where we are watching the director's poorly disguised fetish of abusing women, or Game of Thrones, where it is just abusing women under the guise of historical accuracy to the point where it's good that D&D didn't get to make their What If the Confederacy Won show. Cause I know what you two are. These bastards were fiending for Sophie Turner and Macy Williams to get older so they can film scenes for them. You're not slick.
I saw that! Disgusting pervert!
I'd say it's got more in common with 90s and 2000s high school and college comedies, like something along the lines of American Pie and Easy A. I'd also say there's some elements of Heathers in there because Yumiko is giving JD at times with Michael kind of serving as her Veronica. So Bet keeps a lot of the weird energy of Kakegurui in an unserious way that I think works for an American sense of humor. And by that I mean if you find stuff like Scott Pilgrim, Mean Girls, Jawbreaker, and Heathers funny, and Gen Z Broken Humor funny, then this show might work for you. Like, Ryan offers to teach Yumiko to dance and then it cuts to him dancing to What Is Love? We're introduced to Yumiko gambling with a modern day Breakfast Club, which perfectly sets the tone the series is going for. There's a music montage when Yumiko is led through the house pet hallways. It happens twice in the same episode. Runa's dad shows up in a picture and I thought I was bugging, but no, bro had a Hitler stash. Runa also has an enforcer that's always wearing a beaver costume, and then it turns out that it's Seth fucking Rollins and he beats the shit out of Michael. Suki's house pet Rex gets turned on by seeing Ryan kick some guy in the dick. Yumiko tries blowing up her roommate's dad and then gets mad that Michael prevented that from happening because God forbid a woman do a little terrorism in these trying times. Dory explodes a guy into cards, I think.
It's her. We have to get out of here. Ah!
Obviously, there's some changes here and there. For instance, the school is called St. Dominic's. Ryota is now Ryan and he's British. Mary Saotome is now Mary Davis and she's my favorite character. Midori is now just Dory, who is still creepy, but she's like straight now and basically the final boss of ADHD, which works because Midori in the OG series is only odd and threatening from a Japanese perspective, I fear. Bringing a gun to school to look cool or be threatening is an unfortunate common occurrence in America. So get in line. It's basically the whole K-drama bully goes to an American high school joke. She's just like a gas station weirdo. Granted, so is Dory, but if you went to school in America, you're more likely to run into a Dory than a Midori. I've been classmates with at least 5 during my school years. You know those girls that randomly screamed because they were low-key understimulated? Yeah, those were Dories. Riri and Kira are half-siblings in this, not twins. They're also Russian on their dad's side. Editing Huxley here to chime in that I might be wrong on them being Russian. Like, they could still be Russian on their dad's side, but both actresses are Ukrainian, so I'm just gonna assume their characters are also Ukrainian. Itsuki and Yumemi are kind of fused together to create Suki, who is basically your run-of-the-mill gay influencer who is a terrible fucking person. Think Jeffree Star and James Charles. He's also one of the better council members, cause yeah, in an American version of Kakegurui, one of the council members would be an annoying-ass influencer. They are a plague onto humanity with everything they touch becoming a stale shell of itself. There's some guy on the council named Chad. He's not Kaide. There really isn't a Kaide in Bet. Your closest choice is Michael, who isn't on the council, and that's me being generous to Michael. There also isn't a Yuriko. To be fair, there's barely a Yuriko in the OG series, nor is there a Sayaka. All of Kira's homoerotic moments are strictly between her and Yumiko. Because in America, we barely let lesbians get one romance. They're not giving them a toxic lesbian triangle. Not all of the changes work, but it's one of those things where I just moved on with it. Except for Kira not being blonde or having white hair. And it's weird because it's not world ending for me, but it still bothered me immensely. Like, she's not even a regular blonde, but she still keeps the blue lipstick. And it doesn't work for me. Because the whole point of her blue color scheme is to be icy and calculating in comparison to Yumiko's fiery red, right? I will say that the more I've been exposing myself to it, the more it's becoming normalized for me, because now I can't imagine Kira with blonde hair. A funny close call that I was worried about is I initially thought they had split Ryota into two characters, with his smarter side being given to Michael, just so Michael has something to do as this new original character. Luckily, that was not the case, because Ryan does get his moments like Ryota does. Maybe a bit more than Ryota does, let's be honest. I actually like Ryan compared to Ryota. A writing change I hate is how unintimidating Kira is, and by extension, the student council. In the original series, the council feels like a force to be reckoned with. They have a chokehold on the school. And I probably won't explain the difference right, but you know how the whole thing with Itsuki and how she was looked down on in the council was because she basically brought her way in? The council in Bet feels like that. And granted, they are, because they're all basically Nepo babies and their parents were in the same club and stuff, but it really just takes away from the tension. Cause yeah, obviously Yumiko's gonna beat them, but in Bet, it doesn't feel exciting. The fun part in the original series was watching Yumiko completely dog walk the council members while they were cheating, but it's not there in Bet. Mary is the only initial member of the council that feels like she's actually working for her victories, even if she's cheating at first. Like, there's this implication that all of the student council members are cheating, but you legit never see that. Lying at best, yes. Actually cheating, it's only Mary. The council are just genuinely good at their games. The only time you see the council actually cheating is during the house pet hunt, where there's a rule that you have to be handcuffed to your house pet. Right in the beginning, Chad and Suki just pull out a key to the handcuffs to make it easier for them to hunt others, mainly Yumiko and Ryan. So it's a combination of the council being generally good at their games, but also not having to earn their spot like Mary did. She is dead ass the only one who had to earn her spot on the council, and the other council members hate her for it. Mainly because they see her as fake and trying too hard to be evil. Like, even the brutal house pet system is not something made worse by Kira. It's something she inherited it and could really care less about modifying. The environment of the school doesn't feel like something that's Kira's creation, but something she's struggling to inherit alongside a council of Nepo babies that, outside of Suki, could honestly care less about being evil masterminds. This is a group of people who grew up together and are basically trying to be evil because their parents were. And while it's clear that the story is going a different direction for Kira's character, it doesn't really make her moments of villainy compelling up to that point. I've said it before, I do like female antagonists that are flops, but they still have to at least be entertaining flops, and Kira is not that. They try fixing this in later episodes, but by then the damage was already done and it just makes her look like a brat rather than anything else. And like I said, the entire energy ends up extending to the rest of the student council outside of Riri and Runa a little bit. Like, the roundtable meetings feel like fancy detention more than anything else. In terms of the matches themselves, they're pretty much a hit or miss for me. I do think it's a personal thing, because even when I rewatched Kakegurui to compare, not all of the matches really interested me there either. But the main point was often how these gambles changed the characters Yumiko was playing against. No one really walked away from gambling with her without coming out different, even if it's just by a little bit. In Bet, the only matches that fall under that are Mary versus Yumiko both times, Yumiko versus Ryan, and Yumiko versus Kira at the end. Everyone else kind of just remains the same, and it makes the matches feel very whatever. I also think a big minus against Bet's gambles are that there really isn't any internal monologue to prolong the games and give us insight into what the characters are thinking with each minute of the game, including Yumiko. You're basically relying on the characters talking to each other in order to have some insight, as even their facial expressions, like tells or something, are not focused on unless it's plot relevant. So the premise of Bet is basically a revenge story. Yumiko witnessed her parents die in a car explosion, with her only clue towards their killer being that his name is Ray. She knows that Ray is the father of one of the student council members because he was in the same club as Yumiko's parents and the other parents of the current student council members. Her goal basically being to lure out Ray by defeating whoever's his kid and then kill him. It's also important to note that while Yumiko is still Yumiko Jabami, she's currently going as Yumiko Kawamoto, the last name of her current guardian, so that none of the council members realize who she is and potentially alert their parents. Because apparently Yumiko's parents hated the other council members so much that they just never introduced Yumiko to them, which, considering what happens, fair enough. In terms of mystery, if you're looking something along the lines of Knives Out or Clue, given the tone, you're not gonna get it here, as the only way to really be caught off guard by plot twists and reveals is if you're not really paying attention, like at all. Which, considering how many people were bold in saying that they thought Annie was Smoke's mom right until they started fucking, that's probably a lot of people. The season basically is just Yumiko crossing names off her list, so let's start with Yumiko. For the most part, Yumiko is kind of the same character. OG Yumiko normally has this sweet and polite demeanor, and then she gets really horny and threatening when she's gambling. She also hates Midari. Bet Yumiko instead has this sultry demeanor to her on a daily basis, like she feels like Hollywood from Cool World when she talks. And then when she's gambling and getting excited, she doesn't get horny, but basically kind of like hyperfixation excited, since playing games with her mom was her favorite thing to do, so it basically brings her back to good times. So she's kind of like an inverse of OG Yumiko. Bet Yumiko is really goal driven in comparison to OG Yumiko. OG Yumiko does have a goal, but it's basically a background thing in the story in favor of her having fun and making friends. Bet Yumiko is very upfront about what she's doing here. Bet Yumiko is also even more offended by cheating than OG Yumiko, who just hated one-sided risk. There's a scene where she's getting Michael's help in making a fake background for herself, and Michael offers to make it seem like she got kicked out for cheating on the test. Yumiko's just like, no, I would never cheat. Say I was selling drugs or something. Like, like she can't even lie about cheating, but lying about drug dealing is fine.
Okay, but that's worse. I mean, you do get how that's worse, right?
I love how much the show hammers home how reckless Yumiko is. In Kakegurui, her recklessness is a bit more easy to stomach because she does have a safety net, but Yumiko in Bet doesn't have that as she's undercover. And Bet accomplishes this by actually taking the concerns of other characters into account. Mainly Ryan. Like, during the house pen hunt, her and Ryan see an obvious trap. Ryan is like, yeah, no, that's a trap. Meanwhile, Yumiko is like, oh my god, it's fate. Spoilers, it's a trap. She almost gets the Marvel treatment courtesy of Kira. And it doesn't feel like the show is trying to dumb her down so that Ryan or Michael can have smart moments. I think it's a good combination of the writing for her character, but also Miku's portrayal of her. In fact, while it's very much clearly presented as a flaw, it's also very much the thing about her that makes her special in St. Dominic's. She's not afraid to take risks like the other characters are. She's always willing to bet on herself. And that's the running theme with her interactions with characters like Ryan, Mary, Michael, and even Kira near the end. She influences them to bet on themselves and take a risk. I also do think her being the one true gambling addict in the school also helps her stand out. Everyone else is very normal about gambling, as normal as you can be at this school, but Yumiko is just thrilled. Of course she's like this in the OG series, but there's a stark difference between a whole place being turned up and one person acting up at McDonald's. The only person who probably, maybe, not really, sorta, kinda matches that is Dory, but not by much, and it doesn't even really matter because she's not even obsessed with Yumiko in this version. Listen, everyone's already obsessed with Yumiko. What was the harm in one more? Yumiko is a character meant to affect others. In Bet, she still does that while growing a little bit into someone who puts trust in others to match her freak. If anything, Yumiko's plotline is more about her betting on her allies. Bet Yumiko is finally written as the MC of the show. I do think she suffers a bit since the show doesn't have the same amount of focus on gambling like the OG series. And it sucks because her last two games against Mary and Kira were the most exciting ones, and I want Miku to be able to show off being locked in Yumiko more in the second season. Like I said, Ryan is Ryota, a kind and timid boy who seems out of place at a school filled with gambling heathens. Ryan actually spells it out that most of the students are here because their parents want them to toughen up, because nothing toughens someone up more than being enslaved? Is boot camp too poor for these people? Whereas Ryota is kind of more of the straight man who just watches the chaos unfold, Ryan is also that, but he's given more to do throughout the story rather than just being this observer, and it lets him be one of my favorite characters. Fun fact, Ryan is a new addition to the They Get in the Way of My Ship collection. Back in my day, nothing got in the way of your ship. Lock in and be delusional or stay the fuck home. One of the reasons that Ryan is one of my favorites is because him being more kind and timid doesn't mean that he's not fully willing to throw hands.
Challenge, bitch.
Like, this scene in Kakegurui is not happening under Ryan's watch. Like, let's be honest, Ryan was nerfed. You give that Brit a knife, he can handle everything. And he's doing all of this to impress Yumiko, by the way. Ryan is best summarized by the scene with him and Michael standing together and giving their opinion on something Yumiko did, with Ryan being amazed by her boldness. Even when there's a side bet on his virginity, he's constantly rejecting the other girls and rejecting Mary's suggestion to lie because he doesn't want to potentially hurt Yumiko's feelings. Oh, what would Yumiko think?
What about Yumiko?
Sweetheart, I have bad news. The only guy she's thinking about is the one that offed her parents. He's not completely head over heels for Yumiko though. A lot of his confidence arc really centers around him not letting anyone, Yumiko included, put him back down to house pet status, and he shows her that when he beats her in skirmish, knocking her down to house pet. It's really about him not becoming somebody's doormat and stand by his own decisions and self-preservation. At least in my mind. In the episode with the skirmish game, Kira calls Ryan a distraction, and then in the house pet episode, Yumiko repeats it. But instead of the show being like, Ryan is wrong, the show is like, no, Ryan is extremely valid and he should instead stand his ground because these bitches are crazy and might not be good judges of character.
When did I become a distraction? After I saved the house wars flag? When I helped you beat Dory at the dance-off?
Talk to these niggas, right?
This is how Ryan's arc plays into the theme of betting on yourself. To everyone else, Ryan needs to prove himself to them. But Ryan really doesn't, because Ryan is reliable in a way that a lot of other characters aren't. And Ryan knows this. He's just not appreciated for it. For all of the scheming Yumiko did during the house wars, if Ryan wasn't reliable and didn't beat the donkey shit out of Chad, they still would have lost. Yumiko would have died if Ryan wasn't being reliable during the house pet hunt, because Kira was genuinely trying to catch a body. It's Ryan that helps Yumiko get close enough to be the queen during the dance. The only reason she became house pet was not because Ryan screwed up, but because
she don't love herself.
Ryan advised against playing Suki's game. Yumiko insisted. Even Mary can attest to Ryan's reliability. Bare minimum or not, he still didn't go out of his way to humiliate her while she was his house pet. I really like that at its core, Ryan's confidence is more about him trusting that he is doing the right thing and not molding himself to what everyone else thinks are valuable qualities in a person. Because in a place like this, everyone else might be a little wrong. Also, there's this rumor in the school that Ryan killed his dad for some reason. The only thing that comes out of that in this season is that Mary implies that it might be true, so some of the girls are like super into him now. Regardless of his growth, Ryan is still trying to look cool in front of Yumiko, but it's not even annoying, it's very endearing because his wannabe cool moments are very much those, you practiced this scenario in your room, didn't you? Mary Davis? That's my girl. I have an affinity for women who give off mean lesbian energy, and that is Mary. Obviously, the running theme is that these characters are very similar to their original counterparts with some changes here and there. The first major change with Mary is that she starts the series off as a member of the student council. Rather than being selected, the student council is made up of the top 10 gamblers in the school, and they distinguish themselves by wearing black blazers instead of red. As such, the first student council member Yumiko beats is Mary, bumping her down to house pet status, specifically Ryan's house pet. Mary is kind of given parts of Itsuki in this adaptation where the other members of the council don't like her presence there and are more than happy to get rid of her. This is where I don't like the changes of the student council, because if the whole thing is that it's made up of the top gamblers in the school and not just Kira's handpicked close buddies, seeing the student council constantly cheat to maintain their earned spots would have been nice. Like I said before, Mary is the only member of the council that was showcased cheating, just like she was cheating in the OG series. Once Mary is beaten, every scene with her is her trying to climb her way out of the trenches. Mary's arc is more of an identity crisis. During her time in the student council, Mary was putting up a front, trying to fit in with a group of people that were already friends and didn't really vibe with her. She basically starts as someone trying to be in the in crowd, and her desperation is loud.
No chance, Toots. That 86 is faded, but you stink of desperation.
At one point, she tries getting in on the side bet about Ryan's virginity and tries to dead ass pimp out Yumiko to Ryan. I am not kidding. And Yumiko, what self-preservation Jabami, is just like, okay, sure, if it can help you.
Girl.
And Mary knows she's wrong for this, because the moment Yumiko says yes, she's just like,
isn't that what you want?
I don't know. I never thought I'd get this far.
Mary also has this reaction because she was crushing on Yumiko herself. Like, Mary is only nicer to her faster in this series because she wanted some Jabami juice, if you know what I mean.
Just simple words. Why can't I say it?
Because you know she'd say no. Yumiko isn't just some girl, she's a force. It's all a game to her and she never stops playing. You have to earn her attention, not beg for it.
Yeah, big talk, bruv. You struck out too.
Well, at least I took a swing, bitch. Jesus.
Kira kinda says it best that Mary just keeps digging a deeper hole for herself, but Mary, having no choice but to be herself in her fight to be back on the top, does endear her to Riri, and the two do build a slow relationship, and I do think their relationship is cute. It's hinted a bit at first because there are moments where Riri is just staring at Mary. I assumed it was for malicious reasons, but it was actually for gay ones, so my bad, Riri. I think Mary is the best example of the whole bet on yourself theme, because throughout the entire season, Mary is constantly trying to grab the easy way out, and she's trying to take advantage of whatever is going on in that moment. Even when she gets out of house pet status, it was primarily because she wasn't the main one taking the risk. It was Ryan and Yumiko clearing a path for her. Then when Yumiko gets pushed down to house pet status, Mary's response to her being bullied is, "I just got out of the hole." She's constantly only interested in saving and maintaining her own hide. She has an aura of pitiful desperation surrounding her. But her friendship with both Ryan and Yumiko and her budding romance with Riri slowly change her outlook. When Kira comes with an offer to rejoin the council if Mary beats Yumiko at the game of Nerve, the new Mary is already solidified. Like in the original series, the cheat is to have something protecting their fingers from actually getting cut. In Bet, this is Kira's plan to help Mary cheat, but Mary, officially turning a new leaf, is fully ready to actually put herself on the line and take a risk, so she had asked Dory to remove the protector piece, meaning that she and Yumiko are having a fair game of Nerve, and it's the best game of the entire season. No competition. And it has a satisfying end where Mary actually wins against Yumiko. She also does get an injured finger out of it, but she's fine. She's fine. Yeah, see, she's fine. The important thing is that she won, and she won without cheating. She won by trusting that she could do it on her own. Even during the game between Yumiko and Kira, Mary's goal of being noticed is achieved when Kira's dad compliments her gambling, as it basically ensured that both Kira and Yumiko wouldn't die from the poison. I don't know how her and Riri's relationship is gonna go with the whole Riri murdered their classmate thing, but I'm excited to see more Mary. I also really love Mary's friendship with Ryan. It's very sweet. Guys, I don't really like Michael. I'm still gonna try to be as fair as possible to his character, even though I found myself rolling my eyes at him constantly. Michael basically fills the role of that character that is fake noble. Think Allison Hightower and Janice Ian. He presents himself as above the entire system of St. Dominic's, but as the season plays out, you realize he's only allowed to pretend to be above it all because of his status. I don't think he's a counterpart to Kaide because they would have given him a similar name unless they keep him as Japanese. But then that would beg the question of what K name would work. Like Kevin, Keith, Carl with a K. Kenothi. What? Kenothi? For most of the season, Michael attempts to serve as the angel on Yumiko's shoulder, the devil being Yumiko herself. He's constantly trying to talk some sense into Yumiko's more chaotic plans. This doesn't mean he's a complete party pooper. He is down with helping Yumiko stick it to the student council, and he does think the house pet system here is horrible. Also, he's the one Dory's obsessed with in the show.
What am I supposed to do with this?
Eat it.
He's another character blatantly changed by Yumiko's presence, but unlike Ryan and Mary, it's for the worse. It starts becoming clear that Michael's eagerness to help Yumiko has some secret agenda behind it once he realizes she's really about this revenge thing. And it concerns him heavily because, spoilers, it turns out Ray is his dad, and despite his strained relationship with his dad, he very much doesn't want his homicidal new friend to off his dad, or vice versa. So he's really only helping her investigate so that he can cover up whatever evidence he finds. Once Yumiko realizes this, the group officially distances themselves from Michael, and Michael completely becomes overtly against Yumiko, even snitching about the gambling speakeasy and trying to sabotage it with Kira by cutting off the power. This is also the scene where he gets beat up by Seth Rollins, because Runa, who's helping organize the gambling here and who doesn't know Kira found out about the speakeasy, sends her enforcer to go turn the power back on. Meanwhile, Kira left Michael there to make sure no one turns it back on yet. Coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb right there. Side note, this scene feels so Nickelodeon, where they just had random celebs cameo in shows. Cause why did Fabio keep popping up in Ned's Declassified? I think my slight indifference to Michael is mainly because what he does in the season is done better by other characters. If it's being an ally to Yumiko's schemes, then Ryan and Mary do it better. If it's being an obstacle Yumiko has to overcome, then Kira and the student council do it better. Though I am here for him being built up as a more antagonistic force in season 2 since Yumiko did successfully kill his father. There is a scene that happens near the end of the season that I did like between Michael and his dad. In it, Michael is trying to warn his dad that he's in danger, but Michael is doing two things. One, he never mentions Yumiko by name, just that it's a classmate of his. Two, Michael is also taking measures to make sure that his dad is not physically close to him. I just thought that was a neat touch. And his intelligence is kind of why it's a shame that he wasn't a member of the student council, because he would have been their most effective member. Kira really dropped the ball on that one. Speaking of, this version of Kira really did take me some time to get used to, because her character is obviously going in a different direction, but it doesn't mean I can let her non-threateningness off the hook. I kept joking that she was giving Disney Channel villainess for the entire season in my notes, and normally it wouldn't be the end of the world, but since Kira is essentially supposed to be the final boss of the season, it doesn't get me hyped to see her match with Yumiko. It's completely possible to do an antagonist that will inevitably change sides but still be a serious threat to the protagonist through their actions. Characters like Zuko and Katria, Greed and Franziska, Byakuya, Kuchiki and Vegeta, and so on and so on. Kira feels less like some cold, calculating psychopath and more like, well, just a brat, even though she has elements of Kirari there. Like, Kirari Momobami is Regina George, while Kira Timurov is Mandy Weatherly. As I said it before, they try to rectify this with Kira later in the season, but Disney Channel Mean Girl is an incurable disease once you catch it. There's a scene where she's drowning some girl for making her eggs runny, but it just doesn't work, especially since it's following what Riri did to that same girl, and that was disturbing.
I need Yumiko to lose. Ow!
Kira doesn't really get interesting for me until the finale where her and Yumiko are playing blackjack for the antidote to the poison they both took.
No, I actually thought... What did you just do? Welcome to the game. It was fun watching both of them unravel. Kira just felt like she inherited evil rather than her being a main player in it. Which can work, but in Bet, it basically translates to Kira standing around throwing fits because the other members of the council are getting along behind her back. I am not kidding about that. She's even very easily manipulated and was able to be lured away, which causes Spadehouse to lose their flag. And it feels so... this is the final boss of the season? Ultimately, because of this, the final gamble does feel less like a culmination of the season and more like something that had to happen. Mind you, it's coming after Yumiko versus Mary, and it falls flat, and it's mainly because Kira falls flat. That being said, I can understand where her character was going while realizing that the writing for her kind of suffered for it. At least to me. I'm gonna run through the student council because a lot of them don't really do a lot in terms of actual growth in the season. Most of them remained unchanged. Chad is legit just an extra body lying around. He has a moment of relevance during the Speakeasy episode, but that's about it. He pretty much just appears and has the same amount of relevance as background characters like Kylie and Becky. Dory remains the same throughout the season. Her encounter with Yumiko doesn't really do anything for her. Seriously, her beef with Yumiko feels so over and done with so fast that I forgot why Ryan was teaching Yumiko to dance. That being said, she was fun to watch at times, especially during the House Wars episodes. I do think the constant stimuli thing is an odd change, but it's whatever. Runa is fine for the scene she's in, but she's mainly in the background of council stuff, which I guess works because so was the original Runa. Riri is the second best member of the council. She's actually the main one that's threatening, and I'm hoping whatever Kira lacked in this season is made up for by Riri in the next one. I am low-key hoping she takes control of the council and revamps it kind of like an inverse of Kirari and Ririka, cause even though she seems softer than Kira, she's the one catching actual bodies. Suki Hennessy is the best member of this council. Not only is it a change that works, but he's also entertaining. I think Ryan Sutherland did a good job at playing a gambling Jeffree Star with a nail fetish. No notes, love him. Suki really feels like one of those characters that an actor can have fun with because they're such a hot mess or allowed to be very evil. Kind of like Viola Davis in Songbird and Snakes or Denzel in Training Day. The mystery ends with Yumiko discovering who Rei is and that Michael was trying to fuck up her investigation. Despite this, Yumiko successfully kills Rei, but Rei also reveals that Yumiko's mom survived the explosion and has been in hiding, and that they and the other parents have been looking for her because she stole money from them. But he dies from his wound before he can tell Yumiko where she could be. Another thing is that it's revealed that Rei was just the house pet for the other student council parents, which means that they all had a hand in killing Yumiko's parents, which led to where Yumiko now strives to kill them all. Kira knows this and helps Yumiko because while Yumiko is escaping with Ryan, Kira pins Rei's murder on her dad. Or at least she loudly sets the scene that he was the one that could have done it. Now Kira does this because her dad hit her and also chose Riri to be the student council representative over her. That led into a fallout between Kira and Riri where Kira straight up tries to choke the shit out of Riri. And it's disturbing as hell because this entire time they've been really soft towards each other, with Kira kind of giving off this protective older sister vibe. So for her to turn around and try to barehanded choke her sister who she's been promising to protect from their dad is genuinely sad. But that is where season 1 ends. Like I said, the show isn't really good if you're interested in the mystery aspect, and the gambling is a bit of hit or miss, which sucks because I think the gambles can be really fun with the editing if they let the actors really get into it. I am hoping the second season does do a better job at making the gambles, most of them at least, more fun to watch, especially now since many of the characters are more down to take risks, because I really want more unhinged behavior, because that's the bread and butter of Kakegurui. Because the unhinged behavior from Yumiko, Mary, Kira, and Ryan by the end of the season made the games more interesting to watch. Dori is also unhinged, but she's just desperate for stimuli, not for the thrill of potentially losing her life and having grievous bodily harm inflicted on her. Bet has been greenlit for a second season, and they did start production, so I can only hope that any issues I had with this season are addressed in the second season. And I will be sad because regardless of what I had problems with, I still had fun watching the show and really enjoyed a lot of the characters. Also, ending with a Japanese rendition of Never Gonna Give You Up is just chef's kiss.
I know the world. What does that see?